This is the Lotus Bloom Podcast. And here is your host, Morgan Wiley.
Welcome to another episode of the Lotus Bloom Podcast. I'm your host, Morgan Wiley, and I'm excited you're here because today is a very special day. I am excited to bring to you a new guest, and not only do we get to hear from her, she is here in the Red Cabin studio with me, and I am so excited about that. So I would like to introduce to you a very longtime friend of mine. Now, I was thinking about this and realizing that we have been friends since 1997.
Yes.
Y'all, that is 23 years.
Too many to count.
Yes. So this is my friend Nicole Allen, and she is here to share with us her story of becoming a hairstylist. And she's my hairstylist, which I love and am super excited to be able to have her on the show today because not only is she super creative in all aspects of her life, but as a hairstylist, I like to think of her as an artist of a living canvas. She creates every day in all different kinds of ways for so many different people. And so today we are going to talk about that. So welcome, Nicole.
Yay, thank you.
I'm excited you're here.
Thank you, me too.
It's very fun to be able to, look at you and interact with you while we speak.
I know, I love it.
So why don't you give us a little background and talk about when you knew you wanted to become a hairstylist and how that came about?
Sure. So I don't remember when I specifically wanted to do that. I remember seeing different hairdressers and thinking, they look really cool, or that would be super fun. And admittedly, when I was in high school, if I was having a serious emotional time and I was upset, I would usually find myself cutting my hair in the bathroom.
Really?
Yeah, so I would frequently walk out and say, well, I guess I have short hair now. So
I'm sure your mom loved that.
Yeah, she did not always love that, but I was not afraid to go for it. And I had several friends that at different times, we'd have wild hair and say, oh my God, you should cut my hair. And I would just say, okay. And now I look back panicked and think, my God, I can't believe I did that. But I think that was where it sort of started and just sort of feeling brave about that. So I had it in my mind, but I had gotten married and I had kids. And so it sometimes felt like it was too late. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't until I was 32 that I actually went back to school, as you know. And I had read a quote that said, it's never too late to become what you might have been.
Love it.
And I just felt emboldened to maybe dare to pursue that. And so I told my husband that I was interested and went to go check out a couple of schools and talk to people about, the different options I had here in Spokane. And so I set up a time to go look at the school, and Aaron was going to come with me and the kids. And we drove out there, and of course I had some littles, and they fell asleep in the car on the way there. So we get there, and Aaron looks at me, he goes, well, I guess you're just going to go in, and I'll stay in the car with the kids while they sleep. And so I went in, and it felt like this whole new world. And it was so exciting and scary, but so exciting. And so I got a tour and all of this. And when I got back to the car, I was so excited, and Aaron was in the car and he was actually crying. And I said, is everything okay? And he said, I was watching you from the car, and when you walked in there and talked to people, you lit up. And it was like you had this whole part of you that had been just waiting. And it was like it became alive inside of you. And I couldn't believe how beautiful it was. And you have to do this. You just have to. And so we were both crying in the car.
And now here in the studio.
So, but it was so, such a relief and so encouraging that he was so on board.
Yeah, that's amazing.
You know, and for our kids, we waited until, for another, I think it was like 5 or 6 months until the summer, because Aaron's a teacher. So that way I started full time in the summer at school. And then that following year, all of our kids were into school. So that way I knew, you know, that I wasn't wanting to sacrifice their childhood and their time for that. It just felt like the right time. So once I got started, you know, it was just awesome. But the kids too, they were so excited and so encouraging. And it really felt important to be an example for them that it isn't too late and to put yourself out there. And there was definitely times that was scary, because suddenly I'm an adult and I'm being evaluated and I'm being watched and taught, and I don't know what I'm doing. And I'm putting myself in these positions of, you know, just never been there before, never done that before. And so it was nerve-wracking, but every day it also felt like more parts of me were coming alive and excited. And just the possibilities started feeling really endless, which was cool.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Gives me chills. And I think it's so important, like you said, for your kids and those that you love, that they can see you pursuing your passion and something you want to do, even if it is scary or uncomfortable, and because it shows them that they can do it too.
Exactly.
So, I mean, not that by any means is 30 old, but did you feel like you were one of the older ones there? Was that a challenging thing in its own?
Yeah, absolutely. I was totally one of the oldest. I mean, there was only a handful of us that were really over that mid-20s age. There was obviously some instructors that were older, but as far as students, I was definitely of the older crowd, which didn't actually bother me most of the time, because I feel like adult students actually have a higher success rate. You're not afraid to ask the questions. I didn't care if I looked stupid or if I didn't know something. I wanted to learn.
Yeah, you were there to get it done. You knew what you wanted to do. And
exactly. Yeah. And there was a lot of students that, you know, just sucked time and would be doing stupid stuff and not, you know, paying attention or whatever. And I felt like I want to take advantage of all the opportunities. And so I actually felt like in a lot of ways it was to my advantage that I was a little older. It was really funny though, because most of the students for cosmetology specifically, they come in, you know, at 18, 19. And so I was Nicole, she's a little older, but I felt like they still thought, you know, she's kind of cool or whatever. Until this one student that was talking about where she had gone to school at. And we were talking, and I said, "Oh, my husband's a teacher." And suddenly we realized that he was her middle school teacher.
Oh, no.
So suddenly I went from like, "Oh, she's a little older," to she's 1,000 years old, which was hilarious. So that was a super funny. I went home that night and laughed hilariously, because it was just, you could see her face just change suddenly. The realization of how old 32 really was just hilarious. So that was super funny. But I got to have a ton of awesome experiences and opportunities through school. And I really felt it was important to take advantage of anything I could. And so I got to go to Las Vegas and have 3 days of education that not everybody got to do. I got to be an on-stage platform artist as a student in Seattle for a hair show. And I also got to do a really big photo shoot with doing all the hair and makeup for it as well. And that was just, those were really cool opportunities, really cool, that you had to put yourself out there to get the chance to be a part of it. And I did. And so I was, and it definitely was a huge added bonus.
Oh, yeah.
So it was cool. And it was definitely part of what I felt like was important about and helpful about being older, that I was willing to put myself in those vulnerable states to get those opportunities too. So
That's really great.
yeah.
When you were in school, and maybe even now, when things were challenging or maybe frustrating, or maybe there were even times where you felt like you weren't getting it right, or really, really challenged by the things that you were learning, what drove you to keep going, to not give up and to see it through?
My personality is pretty competitive, but it's almost exclusively competitive with myself. So I would constantly be having competitions internally about, okay, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do it over and over and over and over and over and over. I'm going to go home tonight and all day tomorrow before I go to class, I'm going to do it, 7 times, just how I'm supposed to do. And I would have like timing things too, competitively internally of, okay, this time I'm going to do that haircut and I'm going to do it under an hour and it's going to be perfect. Okay, this time I'm going to do that color and I'm going to have it done, within this amount of time. And so I'm a nerd, and
I'm not sure I knew this about you.
yes. And it's funny because I don't care about competing with other people.
Right.
But internally, I have those kinds of competitions, and I just started setting little goals like that all throughout the time. And I would ask different instructors, how long should this particular thing take me to do? Like, how long in the salon? How long does it take? And so then that would be my goal, is to get to that point. Sometimes it would be unfair of myself to have that expectation early in. And I a lot of times had them say, you're not coming in perfect. It's okay. You're not supposed to be perfect yet, because I could get frustrated and hard on myself. But it really just drove me to want to keep going and practicing until I got better and better. It didn't deter me from wanting to do it. It usually just drove me into being more compulsive about it, probably.
That's great. Now you're in a salon and you are a businesswoman and this is your thing and you rock at it.
Thanks.
But how does it feel when you finish with a client, or maybe if it's a new style for somebody, or something that you maybe even find might be a little bit of a challenge for you? Or do you find that things are still challenging?
Yeah, there's definitely times that it can be challenging. Usually the hardest part is about tailoring it to that specific person with their specific hair.
Okay.
Because, people will come in and they'll have very fine hair or very whatever, and they'll bring in this picture of somebody that has just crazy amounts of hair or has even extensions and added pieces. So that's honestly some of the hardest, is trying to interpret what they'd like to what is actually reality and what's realistic, and being able to communicate that without creating unreasonable expectations, without giving them something they don't actually want either. Because you also have the people that, well, I want it to look like that, but I don't really want to do anything to it to get it to look like that. So one of the things I had to really learn was it's actually more of a communication thing than almost anything, which is, what is it about this picture that you like?
Right.
And then, okay, with your hair, this is what I think is possible or what would look good, and building the relationship for them to be at a place that they really trust me. And then being able to do that and have it look great and still be workable with their real life too. As you know, we talk a lot about that.
Yeah.
What does your life actually look like? How much time do you have to put into it? How much maintenance do you want? All of those kinds of things.
Right.
But it feels great to have this great, you do all of this work and you get this like finished product. It's very satisfying.
Yeah.
It feels really like in one fell swoop, you can really change someone's look so quickly with that. And that's really fun.
Well, that's what I was wondering. If you still or ever feel like a rush of excitement when you've created this masterpiece for someone.
Yes.
I mean, I know how I feel when I leave your salon and I'm like, yeah, I can conquer the world because my hair rocks right now.
That's awesome.
Because it does. It totally changes my outlook. And I know that if I am approaching that, deadline and my roots are showing and I'm like, oh man, I feel it physically, that what I'm seeing, I don't want to sound vain, but it tends to affect how I feel. And if I know that I'm feeling like, hey, I am put together, I'm looking good, that I can do other things.
Yes.
So I wasn't sure if it affected you as the stylist at all or in similar ways.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, it's when you knock it out of the park, you feel it and it feels awesome. And you watch your person walking out the door and they're flipping their hair and you can tell like they're feeling good. And that I love that. I absolutely love that. Because the other part is that in that time, I've also been able to get to know that person. And usually we also talk about things that are meaningful and what's happening in their life. And so when they're leaving, if they can leave a little lighter, and yes, it's only hair, it's not brain surgery, it's not, I'm not actually fixing major things in their life. But when you feel good about how you look or with your hair, it does help your outlook.
Yeah.
And if on top of that, I can have encouraged them in their life in that hour or 2 hours or 3 hours, that feels good too. And I absolutely care about that. And that to me is almost what matters more, is that connecting with those people and being able to speak into their lives right where they are and connect in a heart kind of way. And hopefully that they can leave feeling lighter in that way too. And I love that. That super matters to me.
Yeah. And just to confirm that, I know that it does when I'm sitting there and you can share with me some of, not personal details, but stories of people and their, things they go through. And I can see the care in your eyes and your voice, and you care about the people. And I think that's such a cool thing, that it's not just a job. It's, it's a passion for you, but it's also a passion of communication with people.
Yeah, it is. And I've had several people say too, you're the longest relationship I've had. I feel honored to get to have that place in people's lives, because in some ways I really am. I have clients that have been married and divorced and moved on to the next. And I've been through that, walking through that with them, and obviously through loss and through joys and births and celebrations and all sorts of life events. I mean, think about it. Before you get married, you get your hair done. Before you get, before you have whatever celebration, you're making sure that's done. So I get these really unique, special opportunities to be a part of people's journey in their life. And it really is, it sounds so cheesy, but it's such an honor.
No, it's not. And it's such an interesting insight to hear, the flip side. Because, all you think about, I got to get my hair done before Christmas, or we have this work party, or I'm about to have a baby and I know I'm not going to get out of the house for a while.
Exactly.
All the things that, maybe we even take for granted, but that we have this connection with you. But you on the other side, you get to walk along that story with those people. And that's really cool.
Yeah. And I think people don't always realize how much we carry for, and because we care, in the aspect of, I heard about what was going on and it was hard. And I go home and think about that. I mean, more than a few times I've cried in the back room or in my car for someone else and just for what they're going through, but also exciting things. And I will absolutely text people, how did surgery go? How are you feeling? I've been thinking about you, and keep in track. I will put in my phone calendar, so-and-so's having surgery this day, check in 3 days later, or, different things, because not everybody has a big community in their daily life. And so I get the opportunity to be part of that for people too. So it's really cool. Anyway.
No, that's really neat. And I think that is, special to you.
Thanks.
Not all stylists will do that.
Yeah.
So I think that's a really cool part of who you are and how you instill that in what you do.
Thank you.
So you brought up some stories. Is there any story that you can share, without giving away details or anything, that maybe what's the most interesting story you've come across? Or
Oh, I had a couple that were in their 80s when they first started coming to me, and it was a husband and a wife, and they're just sweet. And the gal reminded me of my grandma. She'd come in and she'd say, "How you doing, Pud?" And she'd like pat me on the booty, and it was just so cute, right? Just like a grandma does. Yeah. And so she was so cute, and getting to know them. And the guy was in the military for his whole career, and so as I got to know him and I'm cutting their hair, little bits and pieces about their life start coming out. And one day he just drops this bomb of knowledge and says, "Well, I was a part of the Joint Chiefs of Staff at one point in my career." And I'm like, "I'm sorry, what now?" And he says, "Yeah, part of the Joint Chiefs of Staff in Washington." And I'm thinking, oh my God. So, I kind of let that go, but I'm just thinking and whirling in my mind, like, I have so many questions. So he came back about 2 weeks later and I said, "Okay, so sit down. I have a list of questions." And so come to find out, he was a part of the Joint Chiefs of Staff during JFK's administration.
Crazy.
And was on duty when JFK was killed.
No.
And so they have in their basement the first 10 minutes of ticker tape from when that happened.
No way.
That came across the wire. Because, of course, at that time, we're talking red telephone, direct line phones on the, before computers. So it all came over the line. It was all ticker tape. It was all, so he's one of the ones that got the call. And his boss over him said, "You call the White House, I'll call the Pentagon." And then, batten down the hatches, basically. And it was just crazy. I just had chills.
Oh,
and I'm sitting there cutting and I'm going, oh my God. And this guy is just 80 something and completely, you'd never have any idea. Just a complete regular guy, right? So, and then she's telling us stories because they had young children at the time about how this other family that was in a similar position, they traded babysitting. So one of them got to go to the wake, and the other family watched all the kids, and then the other went to the funeral, and then they babysat all the kids. And some of those practical things that we all do, right? For real life things, especially when you've got littles, it just all of a sudden made that very real, right? This like, wow, all of these people and were involved, and all of those very practical things, were also a part of it. So anyway, they were probably by far my most fascinating couple.
Yeah, wow.
And every time they'd come, they'd tell me more. Their parents had stories when they were kids. So not the couple that I saw, but their parents of traveling in covered wagons.
Oh, no way.
And stuff.
Crazy.
So suddenly history is even feeling so close. Because it's not just this thing we read once. Oh, yeah, my great-grandfather once told a tale. No, their parents.
That's wild.
And so that was just crazy, too. So it's fascinating. And that's part of what is so fascinating for me about what I do is that you have these very unassuming people. And suddenly you start hearing these really incredible stories that are so real.
Well, and you never would know. Unless you just were in this position where you get to talk to these people.
Yeah, and they're like in their 80s,
basis.
just regular, sweet old people that look like your grandparents.
Yeah.
And suddenly they're telling these tales. And he told us, we went to dinner with them, and he told us a story about how he would get picked up by helicopter, and he'd have nuke codes.
Oh, of course.
In his briefcase. Exactly. And it's like the kind that's attached to his arm, right? Like old school. My kids' eyes were like saucers. They're like, spies are real, and this guy was one. So
it's like a movie.
It's just crazy. Yeah, it's wild. So that part's super fun.
Yeah.
The occasional shock.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah. It's super fun.
So have you ever had, and we can cut this out, maybe it's a bad story. Have you ever had any stories gone bad or inappropriate, anything wild and crazy? I don't know.
Yeah. The funniest was a couple that he worked out of town, and ultimately, looking back, I think their marriage was on the rocks. And so she was trying to spice stuff up. So she said, when he's coming back to town, I'd like to set up a time where you can really have a nice treat, and do his hair, but really take a lot of time and massage his scalp and do a beard trim. And she's kind of talking even sort of sensual. And I'm thinking, I can do the work stuff. She goes, would you care on a Saturday? And I'll bring, I'll maybe bring some meats and cheeses and whatever. And I'm like, it's hair, so you don't really want it in the food. But if you want to. And this was early in too, so I was a little naive and like, okay, sure. So when they get here, it's fine. I'm doing my job. But then she starts standing really close to me and she's like rubbing his head, but sort of where my hands are also cutting. Oh. And so it's like she's trying to intermingle her arms with mine almost. And she's going, ooh, yeah, just like that. And, and suddenly I'm thinking, oh my God, I think I'm part of foreplay and I don't want to be.
Oh no, I've never heard that one.
So she's doing all the, oh yeah, just like that. And can you? And I'm like, okay. So then I just get into hyper mode. So my husband's a teacher and da 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 da. And I have 3 children, da 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 da. And like, I'm trying to work. And all of a sudden I'm going, I want you out. I'm hurrying up. And I can see there's one other stylist that's still working. And she is looking at me and giving me eyes. And she's laughing hysterically and like walking out of the room so she doesn't like start making it obvious. But we're both howling. She even, I think, ended up staying because she's like, these guys are freaking me out and I'm not going to leave you alone.
Oh, no.
So that was my most awkward. Like,
that's
what
awkward.
is happening right now?
That's pretty awkward.
Yeah. So thankfully, I got out safely.
It's good.
But yeah, I almost felt like I needed a safe word or something.
Right. Yeah, she should have had a phone call for you or something.
Yeah, something, right? Sarsaparilla. Yeah.
Oh, God.
I just was like, oh my God, bubble. There's a personal bubble. Yeah, it was entertaining after the fact, but very awkward in the moment.
Oh my God, I'm not even sure how to recover from that.
I know, I'm sorry.
Oh no, I asked the question.
It's all good. Take it or leave it.
Okay, well then why don't we'll use this opportunity to segue into a fun, entertaining, get your mind off that game.
Yeah, I know. People are weird. What can we say? Occasionally.
What do you do?
Yep, totally.
Okay, so let's play a little game.
I like it.
If you have listened to any of the previous episodes, we played a game with Callie Ross called, now I referred to it as lightning round because that's what I learned it as, but apparently I've been told it's called this or that.
Oh, either one. Yeah, I'll do it.
So we're going to call it this or that this time.
We could combine.
Okay, we will combine it. We're going to do a lightning round of this or that.
That's right.
There we go. Okay, so I have a list of items, and I will say one or the other, and first thing that comes to your mind, you blurt it out. Okay. Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
TV or book?
TV.
Movie at home or the theater?
Theater.
Marvel or DC?
Marvel.
Winter or summer?
Summer.
Flip-flops or tennis shoes?
Flip-flops.
Yoga pants or jeans?
Yoga pants.
Cups in the cupboard, right side up or upside down?
Right side up.
Passenger or driver?
Driver is what I like to be, but I'm often a passenger.
Laundry or dishes?
Dishes, I think.
Music or podcast?
Podcast.
Netflix or YouTube?
Netflix.
Phone call or text?
Text.
Mullet or mutton chops?
Neither.
Air dry or hair dryer?
Hair dryer.
Dyed hair or natural colors?
Dyed.
Short or long?
Medium.
Curly or straight?
Curly's easier.
And that's all I got.
That's all good. Woohoo!
I hope you all enjoyed that and got to know a little bit more about Nicole.
There you go.
All right, so let's transition a little bit. We've talked about getting into becoming a stylist. Now, with this comes being a businesswoman. You are a creative entrepreneur. How does it feel for you to do both sides of that, being the artist and the creator, but then also having to deal with the business side of that. Is that, and maybe it's not a big deal, is that something that is a natural inclination for you, or is there kind of a learning curve with that might be challenging?
There's definitely a learning curve. I do think it comes a little bit more naturally for me, just because when I think of myself, I don't necessarily always think of myself as a super creative person. The business side comes a little more naturally. I know that I am, and I do create, and I love that part. But I had heard a quote that somebody had said, for people that say, "Oh, I'm not a numbers person. I don't know. I can't do it." And basically the guy said, "Well, build a bridge and get over it." And so for me, I from the beginning, I thought, okay, I'm going to learn what I have to do. And again, because I do have this weird internal competition with myself. And what I do is also numbers based. It's very tangible. You make so much per service that you're providing. And so I have numbers every day. And so I would create goals of, okay, this next year I want to make X amount more per day or per week. And so I would have those kinds of things internally to grow and then pursue ways to do that, which for me, I felt like just honing my skill set was the most important way that I could do that. And then, paying attention to the finances and seeking wisdom from people that know what they're talking about more than I do, specifically about the business part.
Yeah, that's always important.
Which was helpful. Yeah. And so being able to find people that helped me get set up on QuickBooks and all of that. So that way I had a good starting point, and not bad habits to undo. So
no, that's great.
Again, I think that had to do with too, being a little bit older, that I had more awareness of wanting to start setting up, with good habits to continue rather than having rough things to have to undo and relearn. So
that's great. And I just think it's such an important thing to point out. Again, 30 is not that old, but it is a little bit older in certain industries where a lot of people are starting out. And I just think it's so great to go back if you ever feel like, oh, I missed the boat, or I can't do that now, or there's things I've always wanted to try, but I feel like I'd be the oldest person in the room. That if it's something you really want to do, and if that's where your passion is and it lights you up, then you just get over it and do it.
Yes.
And it's not too late, that there's always that possibility, to go back and try it or to do whatever it might be. Because I know that can be a hindrance for a lot of people, even myself. Just, I'm probably like the last person that's going to start a podcast. Should I really do it? Well, it doesn't matter.
No,
it's
it
something
doesn't.
That is in me that, you want to do. So you just do it.
You do.
And, whether it's what you think it should be or not, if you're just being faithful to the passion within you and going after it.
Absolutely. And it's really the comparing, that penchant and thought of I need to compare myself somehow. That's what's going to kill it.
Right.
And so really pushing those kinds of thoughts off and not worrying about it. And even in the people are going to think this. They're going to think, for me, some of it was they're going to think I'm too old, or they're going to think I'm too vain, or they're going to think I'm trying to be like so-and-so that everyone else knows that does this. And I don't want to be that, and yet at a certain point you have to go, yeah, but this is my life to live. And really we all only have one. So freaking do it.
Yeah.
And as soon as I let go of worrying about what everybody was thinking was when I actually felt like I could feel free and be more of who I am and enjoy it more.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that I think is so huge, same for you with writing. Like, who cares what somebody else is thinking? Probably most everyone's thinking, that's really awesome, but we never give ourselves that credit, right? More often than not, we think of all the negative parts, or that they're going to, all fill in the blank of whatever we think it's other people are thinking. And yet, in my experience, at least thus far, more often than not, people are actually incredibly impressed and inspired by the bravery.
Absolutely. And I can't remember who it was I was listening to that was talking about if at the end of your life, you're looking back and you have regret that you didn't do it, then that's your sign to just do it. If you're more concerned about what other people are thinking and you waste your life and end up regretting that, then that was a missed opportunity.
100%.
And you have to live with that.
Yeah.
So don't wait.
That's true. Well, and that's where like Brene Brown is so inspiring to me. And the whole, she really quotes that man in the arena.
Oh, right.
Right? Quote from Roosevelt. I love it. It's so huge.
We have it on the wall in the studio.
Which is so incredible. It's such an inspiring quote because it's not the critic who counts.
Right.
You know, and if you're not willing to be brave and be in the arena, which means sometimes you're going to fail and sometimes you're going to succeed. And more often than not, it's going to be somewhere in between.
Yeah.
But if you're not willing to be in the dirt, messing around and trying, then I don't care what you think. Your opinion doesn't matter. Because it's real easy to be afar and stand and not be trying anything and just be judging everybody else. And so as soon as I personally heard that quote and had read some of her stuff too, it just lit that fire even more of like, yeah, the critic is not, who cares? Go ahead and judge.
Yep.
And to enjoy the freedom of being brave.
That's awesome. So I have a question from the studio audience. My 10-year-old wanted to ask a question. She's not here right now, but she previously asked if you have a favorite hairstyle that you like to do.
I don't necessarily have a favorite. I really do like doing total makeover styles because this is such a crude comparison, but it's like cleaning a really dirty bathroom or cleaning something that's really dirty and cluttery, and like all of a sudden it's amazing and it's like this whole other look. Like I love that because it feels so successful.
That's awesome.
Which is I'm so lame. That's such a lame comparison, but I literally think about that.
But it's a huge visual.
Yeah, right? So, yeah.
But that's so cool. And I actually even envy that a little bit because with writing books, it takes so long.
Yes. Yes.
To get the satisfaction of the end product. I mean, of course, it's also about the writing and the process of it that I do love.
Yes.
But, you know, if I could do all of that in a few hours and have this finished, beautiful product.
Yes. It's so successful feeling.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's so satisfying. It's amazing.
It is. That's the one thing I will say that is somewhat unique, at least in what I do, that's so very different from what you do. And I do love that part because I am so goal oriented that I love having this end result that is immediate and tangible and done. And I don't typically have like work to take home with me,
right.
You know, like, nope, it's done. You're done. Goodbye. You know,
I didn't wake up in the middle of the night thinking about a different style I could have done.
Well,
maybe
I
you do.
can be compulsive about that. I can do that sometimes. I will wake up and go, oh, I wish I would have done one more thing. Or I wonder how that looked the next day or
I could
whatever.
see that. Yeah.
Nerdy because I'm a nerd. But yes, but it is it is helpful. It is a in and out and you feel done and accomplished.
Well, and variety, because you could go from a man with a short cut to then a woman with a totally different, I mean, you could have so many different varieties within a day.
It's very true. Even cutting similar styles, but to their face shape and to their, it can look completely different, which is part of the fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
so
I love that.
It does keep it moving. It makes the day go really fast. That's for sure.
Oh, I bet. Do you have an opinion on the best style and the worst style? Like maybe, I know this might even span over eras. Is there like, oh my God, that was like the worst hairstyle ever?
I'm not a huge fan of the mullet. Occasionally I'll still see them with super hipstery people and they can kind of pull it off, which is impressive. But in general, that's not really my favorite. Honestly, a lot of the style that was rough was stuff that was before there was a lot of product. A lot of, there wasn't a lot of knowledge about color. And so, for example, growing up in the 80s, I had naturally curly hair, but they didn't know what to do with it. So they permed it. And then it would look like a poodle and they had, no diffusers. It was just power dry it. So it was just awesomely frizzy and huge and
Oh my
horrible.
gosh. Why would they perm already
I
curled
don't
hair?
know, because why not? So those kinds of things.
Yes. Oh goodness. I mean, I had wavy hair and we permed it, but not like yours
but no.
is curly.
Yeah, it was. And so then, there was just a lack of product and a lack of knowledge. And when they didn't know what to do with it, in the 80s a lot, they would say, well, why don't we perm it? So these really awesome, tight, permed, curled, like poodle bangs.
Poodle bangs.
Really horrific.
Oh, wow.
Which was awesome to add to like preteen awkwardness anyway.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Why not?
Keeping it alive.
Let's throw it all on there.
That's right.
Oh, that's funny. And one thing I love about Nicole is, and I'm pretty sure this is not just for me alone because we're friends, but she will tell you if it's a bad idea. Like I'll bring a picture or, an idea. And, no, that's not going to go well with you. But I appreciate the honesty because then we don't go through all of the work and all the trouble just to end up hating it in the end. And so if you're out there and you're looking for a stylist, come to Nicole or find one that will be honest with you.
It's true. I have found, though, that people either love it or hate it. Mm-hmm. Like, they either love that quality or they're like, no, you are not the one for me. Which is fine, because I am not for everyone. And that was a lesson I had to learn, too. But, yeah. Now, I usually will also say, if you really still want to do it, then we can talk about it and I can do it. But if, usually I'll talk through the why.
Why, yeah.
This is maybe not an awesome idea.
Like when my husband tried to get you to perm my hair again.
Yeah.
I'm still not really sure if he was serious or not.
I don't know either.
But we just looked at him like, what?
It was hilarious. Definitely one of those, like, I remember really thinking that was awesome.
Yeah. No. Anyways.
Yeah, he's a cutie. So funny.
Fun times.
Absolutely.
Okay, so if anyone is looking for styling tips or just different hairstyles to look at, they can find you on Instagram at Stylist Nicole. Is that right?
Absolutely. Yep, definitely. Send me a message or any of that too. I'd be happy to help.
Because you do put tips on there.
I will, yep.
Yeah, she's got some tips and fun, pictures of cuts and styles and...
Yeah, and I can definitely direct you. I go in and out of how good I am on there, but I'm always accessible. I just don't always post things.
Got it.
So, yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you.
And we're going to try and get Nicole to come back to the studio because she has another side passion, if you will.
It is a passion, yeah.
Where she has been diving into the Enneagram, what do we call it? All of the information, all of the...
Yeah, it's a personality typing system, basically, but based on motivations.
I am still a little bit not understanding at all. So we are going to bring her back, and we are going to dive into it, and maybe even, diagnose me.
Ooh.
We'll kind of see what we can come up with. Because I've heard of quite a few people who are like, I'm vaguely familiar with what that is, but would like to learn more.
Yeah.
So... she is my resident expert. That would be awesome if you would come back.
Yes, I will.
So, well, thanks so much for chatting today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.